loading and firing it, just so you understand what I am doing. I'm going to start this though by putting in some hearing protection because it's quite loud. And when I actually go to fire it, I'm going to recommend you all cover your ears because it's loud. That's the reason it's loud. So this is the Shoreline Pattern Service musket. It's the new model of British musket that comes out in the middle of the American Revolutionary War. It replaces, or not really replaces, but it is the new model for the Longline Pattern Service musket. The difference between the two is, shockingly enough, the height. The Longline Pattern Service musket is a couple inches taller. Right? It knocks off about an inch with this new model, but not even all the British soldiers had the new model musket. Americans certainly don't have very many of these. Musket, the point of a musket is it's kind of a standardized weapon, or at least as standardized as something can be in the 18th century, but it does require a post-industrialized country in order to produce muskets. America has not gone through an industrial revolution by the time of the American Revolutionary War, and we don't go through one until the Civil War, basically. We started in the 19th century, we finish it in the 20th century. We're nowhere near it during the American Revolutionary War, so America doesn't really have its own musket during this time period. Instead, we use a bunch of other countries' muskets. So we have a combined mix of
i.e. France and Spain.
So I cannot hear you because, again, I have the hearing protection.
What I said was France and Spain.
France, Spain, the Dutch, and we also use parts guns, is what we call them, piece or parts guns, where we take a bunch of broken muskets and we basically make a working gun out of it. It defeats a little bit of the purpose of a musket because we don't have standardized ammunition throughout the Army, but hey, you know, you got to make something work. The most common gun you're going to see in an American's hands is the French Charleville, because we're mostly getting defensive. But for the British, you're going to see Shoreline Pattern Service musket or the Longline Pattern Service musket. So again, takes the same ammo, it's just a difference of basically height. But even with the American Army, even with having these other countries' muskets, all muskets, even if they come from other countries, kind of look the same. They're all generally this tall. They all have the loading mechanism in the same way. They all have a bayonet. They all are loaded in pretty much the same way. So drill, even if you have a non-standardized weaponry throughout the Army, you can kind of do drill all the same. You can use the same drill because you will load the gun the same way, right? They're loaded almost identical. So you're going to start with the gun up at your shoulder, right? And then your commanding officer is going to tell you to prime and load. You bring the gun up into your chest, right? Start by half cocking it. It engages an internal safety mechanism, so even if I did touch the trigger, it would not go off. But even if it did go off, because you can never trust a safety, right? I do actually have a secondary safety on this weapon right here. I have a piece of leather over the hammer right here, so we call it a hammer stall. In order for this gun to go off, the flint has to strike the steel of the hammer. Flint striking steel creates a spark. Spark falls down into the gunpowder that I'm going to prime this pan with. It ignites that. Igniting the gunpowder in the pan, it goes through a small vent into the barrel. The gunpowder inside the barrel is ignited. It's changed rapidly from a solid to a gas, rapidly expanding in volume, building up pressure, shooting a projectile. Easy to say, hard to make a working gun, right? But all that is to say, a simple piece of leather stops the gun from firing, right? Because if you can't create the spark in the first place, it won't go. So I have two safeties. The next thing I'm going to do is get my cartridge, right? So for an infantry soldier, you'd have a cartridge box across your body right here. I am dressed like a dragoon, so a soldier that would be mounted on a horse. You don't want a cartridge box slapping right here. That would be terrible, and you will be miserable very, very quickly. So instead, dragoons wear their cartridges right on their belly. It's called a belly box. Okay? So you have your cartridges right there. Pull one out. In a live round, I would have a lead ball at the bottom here. You'll notice this is not a live round. We do not shoot live rounds in the middle of a populated city. That is called a war crime. So, it's just gunpowder inside of paper. In order to start, tear the top. Right? It's just paper. So you tear the top open. You can do it with your teeth. You can do it with your hand. I'm talking to you lovely folks, so I'm going to use my hand. Right? Now, it's open. Prime the pan first. And then use the exact same gunpowder. Close the pan. To pour down the barrel. So dump it down the barrel, drop the paper down the barrel. For a live round, that would mean the lead ball's right here. I cannot shoot. The lead ball needs to be down here. Ramrod. Use the ramrod. Remove the ramrod and return the ramrod. Yes, you could shoot the ramrod across the field. No, you cannot reload if you shoot the ramrod across the field. Yes, it is important that you return it, which is why it's in all the drill manuals. You have to return the ramrod. It is a part of loading the gun. and then bring that gun up to your shoulder to let your commanding officer know that you're ready to shoot. Because the point of a musket is not accuracy. It's not to say it's inaccurate. In its effective range of under 100 yards, which is basically here from the courthouse, most trained soldiers, they are practicing getting target accuracy. They can hit generally a target of roughly 3 inches at under 100 yards. It's not inaccurate, but that's not the point of infantry weaponry. It's not the point modern day. It certainly isn't the point in the 18th century. It's volume of fire suppressive fire. So I'm never firing alone. Pretty much I'm firing with the rest of my company, the rest of my regiment, up to 1,000 guys firing all at once, creating a wall of suppressive fire. That's the point of this weapon. So here's the part where I'm going to do something that you wouldn't see in the 18th century. I'm going to warn people I'm about to shoot, especially my colleagues on the other side of this wall, my archaeologist colleagues. I'm going to warn them I'm going to shoot. Yeah, if you were going to shoot at or near an archaeologist in the 18th century, you would not warn them, but I am going to, right? Once I do this, I'm going to do 3 commands, and I'm going to do those commands as I say the command. I'm going to say make ready, where I disengage all the safeties on this gun. I'm going to present at that wall there, and I'm going to fire. I'm going to do the things as I say the things. So I'm going to start by doing this, and this is going to be loud. So if you don't like loud noises, now is the time to cover your ears, okay? Make ready. Present. Fire. It's not me, it's science. It works. Yeah, you're going to be drilled to do this pretty much every day of the week. For infantry soldiers, it's 6 days of the week. We do have a state-mandated religion in the 18th century here in Virginia. None of the colonies had religious freedom. We super don't in Virginia, but none of the colonies did. If you think that we did, you're wrong. Sorry, that's just important for me so that you know that. But here in Virginia, we have a state-mandated religion, meaning we also have a state-mandated Sabbath. You're not meant to work for profit on Sunday, regardless of your religion. I don't care. It's state-mandated. So infantry soldiers are not going to be drilling on Sunday. Dragoons are. Because if you have a horse or an animal that is in your care, you are still required to feed and clothe them, just as you're required to feed and clothe your children, even if it is the Sabbath, right? That is considered above the nature of the Sabbath. So